Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the Santa Maria tomato. Now this is a very difficult tomato to acquire seed for. I do believe it's an old world tomato, and I have done reviews on this in the past. This is probably going to be the last time I'm going to be reviewing this tomato, so I figured I'd give it one more shot and give you a better look at some of the fruits that we got off it, and let's do another taste test on it. That way I can finalize my full opinion on this particular variety of tomato. Now, this tomato is really great for making tomato sauces. As far as I remember, because I have made sauce with it solely by itself rather than mixing it with all kinds of other tomatoes. And this tomato really did produce quite a good flavored tomato sauce. So I would say that this is probably best for making sauces. But again, like any other tomato, you can really use it for whatever you want. So let's do a bricks test on it first. Make sure this is nice and dry. It's nice and juicy. That's what we like to see. Okay, so it's a 5 in the bricks. And give you a look at the inside. I have to cover the background in order for it to stop focusing on the background. Hopefully you could see that. Now there is some hollowing around the rind, between the seeds and the rind, and that's just simply the tomato flower is not fully getting pollinated 100%, and that's quite common with tomatoes. Some tomatoes are more susceptible than that towards other tomatoes, but it does happen nonetheless to pretty much any variety of tomato. So let's cut a piece off of this and give it a go. It doesn't look like it's totally fully ripe on the inside. You can see a little bit of wilding in here, a little bit of white, but that's okay, that's fine. What you really want to see in a tomato like this is you really want that color to be uniform. This one's a little bit on unripe inside, but that could be because I had to remove some of these tomatoes a little early off the plant so I can second crop my tomato plants hopefully and get another harvest by the end of the year. But this might be just a tad bit on the unripe side, but we'll see what it does. This has got an absolutely phenomenal flavor. This is like up there with some of my most favorite tomatoes. It's got a really rich, tangy flavor. This one was a little lower on the sweetness, but I have had tomatoes like this that were much sweeter. And this is, like I said, this one was picked up a little bit on the early side, so that may have had something to do with it. We'll cut this one in half. Now this one looks a little bit better. Okay, so let's cut a piece off of this one and see if we get any better flavor. Now that one's much riper. Very soft and juicy in the middle. This type of tomato is the type of tomato you let them ripen on your windowsill until they get really ripe and red and almost kind of gushy and soft. And then you just cut an X on the bottom over here. You just cut a little X on the bottom and just squeeze the whole insides out and you're done. That's it. Or you could do like I do. I pretty much, because I do so many tomato reviews, it's just easier for me to do it and process tomatoes this way. I just get the seeds out of it first, and then I process the tomatoes in a blender. And it's just much easier, much faster to store, easier to process. I can blend it up and then put it in the refrigerator. The seeds are already removed from it. It's just the skins, and I don't mind blending the skins into it because that's fine for me. You won't even notice it, to be honest with you. As far as the sweet and tangy, let's see, with the sweet part on the sweetest one, now this one wasn't that sweet, but we'll rate it off of this one because this one had the most sweet to it so far. And this one here, I would definitely say sweetness wise was about 25. Tangy wise was about maybe 28, pushing 30. You're getting up there a little bit. So it's a little bit more tangy than sweet, but the aftertaste that comes from this tomato that sits on your tongue is absolutely delectable. It's one of those type of tomatoes that you want to taste in your sauce. You want your tomato sauce to have that kind of aftertaste when you cook it and process it, because it has that flavor that is really good and it really draws you back into your meal as you're eating it. So you really want those good flavored tomatoes when you're making sauces, especially if you're going to be making like baked ziti or lasagnas, and you want that sauce to, the liquid to absorb into the noodles. You want that sauce moisture to balance out inside the whole thing inside of a baked ziti or a lasagna or something like that. So you really want that flavor to blend very well. You want it to infuse into the meal. So the better tasting your tomato is, the better tasting that meal is going to be. Yes, you can use a lot of these other tomatoes as filler tomatoes. Like, let's say you only got 50% of these tomatoes and you want to use some other tomatoes as a filler tomato. Yeah, you can do that. The only problem with that is you start to throw out that really rich flavor of this tomato. So you're really going to want to grow several of these plants. It's not the greatest producer in the world, but it does produce anywhere between 10 and say 15 tomatoes, 20 tomatoes. If you don't get blight, you'll probably get that plus more. If you get an early blight season, it wipes your crop out. Well, you're only going to get like a half dozen tomatoes off it, and then you're pretty much done because the blight wiped you out. But if you don't have the blight problem, definitely this tomato will definitely serve you well. It'll produce quite a bit, and you'll get tomatoes, as big as this. Now, this is a pretty big sized tomato here. This ain't a little tomato, all right? It's not in the pounds because, remember, it's a little hollow on the inside, but the size of it's very nice. A lot of meat on this thing. So, anyway, that's it. That's my final tomato review on the Santa Maria tomato. And I will offer seeds. In fact, I think I do have seeds available now on hrseeds.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.